Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Back to some sort of normal Sunday chat. We've had quite a few missing lately. So today we'll have a quick garden update. We'll have a look at some mounted orchids and chat about those. And we've got an unboxing to do, which I need to shut the camera down and start it again because I need that as a separate video. And yeah, just to chat about things. So let's get going. Okay, cold snap, weather-wise, and the effect it has. First of all, the house, never mind this place, this is different. The house itself leaches heat badly. And with the weather we're having at the moment, with daytime temperatures only coming up to sort of 6, 7, 8 degrees tops, obviously the outside of the house is permanently cold, and I'm having to run my heating most of the day. Not all of it, but most of it, just to keep warm. The problem I've got is that under normal weather conditions I can leave this conservatory door open and residual heat comes out in here to give me a bit of a daytime temperature above the normal thermostatically controlled temperature. So it means at night we go down to 14, but during the day I can get sort of 16, 17-ish with residual heat without running the heater. With that door open and the external temperatures, I can't get the lounge warm because it's just leaching too much heat. So I'm having to keep this door almost closed, not completely but almost, so that a little bit of heat still comes through, which is why this Sunday chat isn't going to last too long. It's currently 15 degrees in here. That's too cold to be standing around in. In addition to that, outside, no. I don't do wet and I don't do working in cold temperatures when it's not necessary. So getting a coat of stain on the other bonsai unit is not happening in these temperatures. It wouldn't dry, it would just sit there and then it wouldn't cure properly. So that works off. A little bit of work in the garden, hacking down some stuff, might happen, but I doubt it. There will be milder spells coming along, just have to wait. That also excludes posting the orchids to go. Even if there wasn't postal issues, which there is still, I'm not posting orchids in these sort of temperatures. It's just too risky, it's not worth it. So the weather is having consequences now. The only thing I've done outside recently is the huge pile of bags that Hannah and I did. I've started getting them round to the front where I can load them into the car, but the idea of getting them under cover around the front is so that they dry off, so that when I put them in the car, they when it rains they get little puddles in them, and you sort of put them in the car and you get all your carpet wet and everything, so that allows them to dry off. I've still got a few to take round, but again, I started doing it, and then there was one bag that was quite heavy and I thought, yeah, that's enough, do some more another day. So that was that. Right, what else? In here we are taking the plunge, and the justification is on somebody else's orchid. Well, I won't say it's an orchid channel, but it does have some orchids in it. Basically tropical plants at 53 degrees north. See, down here the word north is an itty-bitty word about that long, but the farther you get up towards the north, the longer it gets, until eventually it becomes north, and it's about 8 foot long. The different accents in this country are incredible. Some make you smile, some make you cringe, but you can't help where you were born and where you were brought up, can you? That's it. Well, you're stuck with what you're given, so that's it. I mean, I've got a bit of a country twang, that's my accent. Unless I visit London for the day, in which case I've got a London twang for about a month because I pick it up just like that. I lived up there quite a while. So anyway, the research done by that guy, not necessarily scientific, but based on practical experience, says that there is a thing called a hot box. This is basically a sulphur, well, the traditional hot box is a sulphur burner, and the fumes kill stuff. If you remember in your science lab, you probably had somebody let a stink bomb off, or your science teacher may have done it. Yeah. Basically, the sulphur smell is a bit like bad eggs, so it's not pleasant, and it's not the sort of thing you probably want in your house. But I can self-contain that out here, and it kills stuff. So it's apparently brilliant for mites, spider mites, and any other sort you might have, and it also kills pathogens and helps with all forms of bacterial infections and stuff like that. So it gets rid of mould, stops the spores spreading. It does a lot of good things, but although the guy can't prove it emphatically, there are people around that maintain sulphur is one of the other elements that should be in that middle section. You know, we've got our NPK, are our macro nutrients, and then below that we've got our calcium and our magnesium. Yeah, many people think sulphur should be included at that level. Yeah, so an amount, a percentage measurable, because once you get down into the micro elements, you can't measure them. They're in such tiny proportions that you can't, well, unless you're in a science lab, you can't measure them. But I mean, the Kern's Rain Mix has taken that on board and included quite a high percentage of sulphur as a direct result of their investigations and their work. Personally, I think that's a bit high, but it's there nonetheless. Lots of people use it, lots of people get good results, so can't knock it. But basically, this hot box doesn't burn sulphur, it vaporizes it. That's a different principle. So it finds its way into every portion of your grow room. I don't believe it leaves a residue. I hope. Think around hoovering all the leaves or something. But it basically kills stuff quite emphatically. And he thinks there is a plus bonus because he's under the impression that because of this need for sulphur within plants, that's a fact, that's not think of the word now. Superstition, that's not the word I want, but theory, whatever. That's a fact, plants do need sulphur to one degree or another. And he's under the impression because it's not just got rid of his bugs, but suddenly a lot of plants that have never grown that well are growing better. So he is, in theory, thinking that the sulphur, the vaporized sulphur, is actually getting into the plants through the leaves or through the stems or possibly through the roots. If this vapor gets into every part of the plant, then it could be in the media as well. But he seems to think that some of his plants are doing quite a bit better for no other, he can't think of another reason because nothing else has changed. And I always say, if you're going to change something, only do one thing, otherwise you'll never find out. If you change 2 or 3 things at once, how do you know which one's worked? And necessarily which one hasn't. So, yeah. So I've bought one, and that should arrive, well, relatively soon. Back to Postman Pat and his trials and tribulations again. His, her, or it. Yeah, so when it arrives, we'll have a play with it, and we'll stink the place out, basically. But it can't be any worse than those flipping smoke bombs I've used. And I now tend to agree with several other people that have said you probably did some damage to your more sensitive plants. And I do tend to agree now. So we won't be using them again. However, this sulphur thing only seems to do good we'll give it a go. And yeah, I can do a report on that. I mean, I don't think I've got bugs in here, but certainly spider mites, two basic types. You've got your red spider mites, you can see them. They're not that bloody small, excuse my French. And then there are other spider mites specific, you know, to orchid related pests on the list, if you see what I mean. They are, if you had incredibly good eyesight and there were a couple of big ones, you might just about be able to see them, but they are very, very small. And with a magnifying glass, with an eyeglass, you can see them. You see the movement, you know they're there. Now, I don't think I've got any. But this guy said that he thinks there's lots of other types of mites that you might not even know you have, that are constantly doing little tiny bits of damage to your plants. And he thinks again that possibly his plants are growing better because they've been zapped as well. Ones he, you know, pests he didn't even know he had because they were so tiny. So we will give it a go, and that's all I can say. I mean, I'm willing to try all sorts of things within reason, especially when backed up by, you know, somebody who's willing to go on YouTube, show the thing, talk about it, say what it's supposed to do, try it out and say what it actually did do. That's the difference. You know, you go on a website that sells the flipping stuff, they're going to tell you that it's wonderful. They're not going to say, oh, it's a bit dodgy buying this because it only works sometimes. They're not going to say that, are they? But somebody who bought it and runs their own channel, if that's what happened, they will say that. Unless it's a sponsorship deal, in which case it'll be wonderful, of course. Oh, right, I'm starting to get cold. Right, I did say we'd have a look at some plants, that's going to be quick. And then right on the end I'll do the unboxing, simply because it's not really, I know people like unboxing and stuff, but strictly speaking it's not directly related to orchids, although it may find a use. In other words, it's general purpose. Right, I'll have to put that down. We need two hands to mess with plants. We need to move that out of the way. Is there anything on that shelf? Yes, there's one up there. And we need to get suck it out, Sam, out of the way. Right, what I'm going to do is we're having a look at the mounted Cattleya types, some of which haven't got tags, but there's only a couple of them that they could be, and they will all be one or the other. But the first one is a bit of a sad entity, really. This was Sophronitis, and it's Brevipedunculata. Now this was a gift, and it stopped growing. Now this is classed as a cooler grower, and yet it stopped growing and it's showing serious signs of failure. So maybe this expression, cooler grower, yeah, cooler than some of the others, but not this cold. Because this is now cold, this isn't cool, this is cold. It's not doing very well. It's got a couple of new growths showing that are not growing. But maybe it will pick up again. I don't know. But it's not doing very well at all at the moment, which is a shame. As I said, I don't like losing gifts, but you can only do what you can do, you know, and I'm stuck with the circumstances here. If everybody wants to donate 50 quid a month or something or other, then I'll heat the place and we'll turn it back into a steamy jungle. Well, I haven't got that sort of money. Right, so that's the only one on that rack, the only Cattleya type. And the others are all over here. Right, so we'll start at one end. Now this is a plant that needs moving. It needs putting on another mount. And this is my other, what was Sophronitis. This is Cattleya cernua, was Sophronitis. And I've had this a long time. And this is the wrong time of year, in theory, to take this off its mount and put it on a better one. Because the problem is, look at the shape of the mount. So it keeps going round corners, so which is a bit of a nuisance. But it's coming into growth. We do have new growths, which also means it's going to bloom soon because the buds come out of the centre of the new growths. And following the new growths, not during, following the new growths, it tends to have a root spurt. So I'm not going to take it off its mount until after it's finished blooming. And then hopefully that little spurt of roots before it goes into its rest period, because this one seriously does rest, I'll catch it and it should be able to establish on a new mount. I'm not going to try it in a pot, it's going to go back on a mount. I mean the other reason is it's been on this mount for flipping ages and it's going to come off the ends. If it doesn't do it this time, it'll do it next time. And this is wafer thin and probably isn't going to last much longer, so that needs dealing with. And we'll enjoy the few blooms it's going to have. It doesn't look like it's going to have many, and that's another reason for doing something with it. The number of new growths per year is going down. Each year there are less. Once upon a time that was covered in blooms, and it went to the Bournemouth Orchid Society's Christmas lunch as one of the plants and got a first and a culture award. It wouldn't do that now. I suspect we're only going to have 3 or 4 little sets of buds this time round. So that needs dealing with soon, but not yet. And the next one is a relatively recent purchase, this one. And this is it's a Rhynchovola. I can't think what the Rhyncho stands for, because there's Rhyncholallias, Rhynchovolas. Well, look it up. Do some work yourself for a change. Anyway, this is a relatively new plant. It's grown a couple of new growths since I got it. It looks like it might bloom on that growth. I don't know. There's another one up here that's got that little bit sticking out, and the other growths don't seem to have that little bit sticking out, which makes me think it might be the start of a spike. I don't know definitely. It has grown some roots since I got it. It's quite a nice plant, and it's David Sanders, and it has absolutely stunning blooms, but in the Brassavola vein, pale colours, greenish creamy colours like that, but it's a stunningly large bloom in that particular genus, and it's fragrant at night, but it starts before it gets dark. So it starts as the light fades. Now most of the night scented ones don't give off their fragrance until it is dark, whereas this one starts a bit earlier, so I might remember to, go out and see what it smells like. Anyway, that one's coming on okay, so I haven't had it too long. Can't remember when I got it, but that's that one. The next one is a failure that ought to be thrown out, except for it decided to put a new growth out. And you know me, I'll always give things a chance. And I'm giving this a chance because it has fabulous blooms. I've had it a long time. It was in a pot once and it bloomed regular, and then it just suddenly collapsed. It went downhill. But I can't remember whether that was due to the root treatment that my Cattleyas had because of the scale. Now, I don't see any scale on this at the moment, but don't forget everything's been treated recently. It's got a lot of roots. Some are old and tired and probably not doing anything. And I was left with these two, miserable pseudo bulbs, but then it grew a new one. Now that's not large and strong, but it's got some leaves, which means it can start feeding itself. Hopefully it's not going to go downhill anymore, and when it does get a little bit more heat, don't hold your breath, the next growth might be a reasonable size, but it's 2 or 3 years off getting back to blooming size now, so it's only here because it doesn't cause me any hassles. Otherwise it would have been out the door. So that's that one. And next we've got, now I can't emphatically say what this is, but I think This is Cattleya Angel Heart. The big pseudo bulb with the tall leaf on it, the leaf got singed round the other place. It got put too close to the roof. It's quite desiccated, but it's still got some green on it. And the latest two growths it's put up are quite pathetic, nowhere near the right size, but nonetheless it's grown them. So again, this pushed a new growth out just as it was about to get thrown away, so it got kept. Then it pushed out another one, equally weak, but it has also grown a few roots now. Not many, but in there's a root, and up the mount there's a root. Now that may never be successful because it's not warm enough anymore, and that may be the best it can do in these temperatures. It's certainly not a light issue, but it could well be a temperature issue. Cattleyas do tend to be intermediate and heading up to the warm end, not down to the cold end. So not sure whether that's got a long-term future or not. Or even if I've got the name right. Now this one, this is Brassocanthe, I've got a feeling I've spelt that wrong, but it's Mackay. Everybody knows that bit. And they keep changing the bit at the front because stuff keeps getting reclassified. Now, this got bad scale and I nearly lost it. And it had to go it went in a pot full of moss and put to one side and thought, right, you can either grow or you can die, you can please yourself, because that's all I can do for you. And it spent probably a year doing nothing, but not dying. It certainly wasn't living the high life. And then it just pushed out a couple of new growths, very weak, and a few roots. And I thought, right, well, let's get you set up in a place where hopefully you'll do better. And it has grown several new growths and is still actively producing some new growths, but they're small. Again, this might be in the category that's never going to do well with my lower temperatures, but I'm certainly willing to give that one a go because the blooms are gorgeous. It's partly why it's still here, I suppose. Anyway, it's looking an awful lot better now compared with what it looked like in its pot full of moss. That's that one. What else have we got over here? Got this one. Now this one was going downhill badly, and then it picked up again. This one got singed too near the roof. As I say, these big thick fleshy leaves, they look indestructible. No, they're not. You can burn the leaves with too much light. Now, the latest growth that's grown on here is a fat pseudobulb, fatter than anything else it's had. It's leaf twisted over, but it's got leaves. And the previous two growths, one got singed, the other one's got leaves. So this one's sort of picking up. And this one is Cattleya Volcano Trick Orange Fire. So actually I haven't had this one that long. But we've got some new roots with active root tips. We've started to grow a couple of new pseudobulbs. This one might be okay in the lower temperatures. It might not. Most Cattleyas bloom geared up to the light level. Not enough light, and they can grow quite nicely, they won't bloom. But it could also be temperature, because if it's not getting a temperature that it's happy with, it's not going to be growing as well and as strong as it should be. And without that inner sort of strength, the plant's just going to think, no, I can't bloom, I haven't got enough reserves to throw a spike. So we'll put up another new growth and hopefully we'll get there next time round. And they can continue for many years like that, never blooming because they're never quite right. But that one's coming on. Not dead yet. It's not doing bad actually, that one. And that's it, that's the Cattleya types on that rack. I didn't say there was a lot, but those are they. Put everything back where it goes now. or I should forget. I'm having to push the racks right over there now, simply because the heater's on an awful lot more and they're getting a bit blasted. So I've moved them away. Better empty, suck it out sand too. Right, I shall turn the camera off and swing it round and turn it back on again, because as I said, the clip of the unboxing I want as a separate clip. Reasons will become apparent when it comes out of the box. Right, Sunday, thanks for Patreon people hanging in there. I've lost an amount that's noticeable. So the the monthly run that happens it happens in the beginning of the new month, basically on between the 1st and the 2nd, and that's where the actual subscriptions take place, basically, and it's actually dropped off quite a bit. It's understandable. Times are hard. People have got to stop and think about their own families and stuff like that. So it's a bit disappointing, but it's understandable. So if you're one of those that has had to drop out, don't feel guilty by any means, and thanks for the support you gave. I mean, some people have joined the Patreon thing to make a single payment. That's not really what that site's for. The idea is to make a regular contribution to support the channel that you enjoy. If you want to make a single payment, like thanks for the video type thing, that's what the Buy Me a Coffee's for. That's just for like a one-off type thing. But anyway, thanks to all the people who take part in that sort of stuff. I'm going to shoot myself in the foot now, but I don't like taking advantage of people. The merchandise that you see, you know, the t-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, all that sort of stuff that you see under the videos, the base unit costs of those things have gone up dramatically. And personally, I now don't think they're that good value for money, whereas they once were. They once were very good. The quality's good, I'll give it that. But you know, like the sweatshirts have gone up. The base cost, that's the cost that I have to add a bit onto, and that's my bit sort of thing. The sweatshirts have gone up from 18 quid like to over 30. It's a hell of an increase. And I'm not sure people want to spend 30 odd quid for a sweatshirt on, you know, that type of purchase. So go steady what you're up to. Those prices have gone up quite a bit. And I have to stay with them. If the base price goes up beyond my price, they won't sell it, because it would sell at a loss. So it's sort of, you know, it just, you try and order it and it says you can't. So anyway, that's not the best of things, but the important things for me are the number of people that subscribe to the channel, which is going up nicely, slowly but nicely, and the people who do the thumbs up when they visit, and people who leave a comment. Sometimes there's little chats get going and all things like that. And all of that is supporting the channel. So even if you don't contribute any funds of any description, just watching the videos and doing a thumbs up is good stuff, you know. So thanks for all that. That's the Sunday thanks done. Thank yous. I don't plug that on every video like some people do. I don't think it's necessary. But those that do say that they notice their subscription numbers rise more than before they started doing it. So perhaps I ought to do it in every video. No, it's not going to happen, is it? Right, thanks for dropping by, and I'll see you next time. Coming up in this week, there will be at least one more of the Project Orchids, possibly two, possibly one rack at a time, and I might think about doing another questions and answers session. They go quite well. I'd like to do a questions and answers session where the answers bit is a live broadcast, but it's the wrong time of year to think about live broadcasts for me. 9/10 plus of my viewers are in the States. They need to be out of bed for a live broadcast, which means here in the UK it needs to be late afternoon or early evening. It's dark already, so I can't do live broadcasts, at least until well into next year when the longer days come back again. Boy, are they getting missed at the moment. We could do with them back. Okay, so see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. And the bit on the end is the unboxing video. The other bit on the end that would have gone on the end of that needs to go now, otherwise I shall forget it. It's the joke. Is it a joke or a... That's more of a joke this time round. I was watching some shorts this morning, you know, the little short videos. And this one popped up, just a comedian, part of his show sort of thing. So I bought a Microsoft Windows Advent calendar, and as you open more and more windows, eventually they all close down for no apparent reason and won't open again. See you next time. And I don't mean that, I love Windows, I think it's great. Whoops. Bye for now. Okay, what's in the box then? Well, what's in the box is a general purpose piece of kit. So it's not a tree, it's not an orchid, in fact it's not alive, let's put it that way. So if you're not interested, you can bail out now. But basically it's going to come in very useful, and I'll tell you why I got it. I got it as a result of an action, a task that I did recently. And it became apparent that I'm going to have to do quite a few of those sort of tasks. I want to make my life a bit easier. So, oh, my back's still twinging. Never mind. So what we've got, once we get through the sheer volume of boxes, as in cardboard boxes, why won't you come undone? Right, there we go. So what we've actually got is a power screwdriver, basically, cordless, so you charge it up and then you run around in all the places where you need to be, and you can do the work. So why have I got this at this time of my life? Why I've got it, oh, it's nice and feels good, feels strong, feels sturdy. Obviously it's not charged up, so it won't work. It does forwards and backwards, so it does screws up and it undoes them. You've got that sort of thing. It comes with a complete set of screwdrivers, and I forget what these things are called. Those sort of things. You put that on the end of a nut and it undoes it. It's got some extension screwdrivers as well, long reach ones. For some reason it comes with a drill. I'm not quite sure why it's got one drill, and it's also got one of these which I liked, which is a bendy bit. So if you've got a screw that you want to do up that you can't get this, oh, it is actually charged up, that you can't get at, then you can use your bendy tool to get at it. So that's good, that can come in useful. And the reason I've got this is out there. That bonsai staging had a lot of screws to put it together, and it's hard work doing up screws from start to finish with a screwdriver. And that number of screws, it made my hand ache, and it took a long time doing them up manually when there's a lot of them. So I thought, when we get round to the next one and the more heavy duty staging, which has got some pretty long screws involved, I've got to go through, the timber will be 6x2, so it's got to go through 2 inches before it even starts doing any work. And because it will be going into the legs, which are 4x4, it's going to be screwing into end grain, which has not got as much grip as cross grain. So those screws are pretty long. The thought of screwing those in manually is not nice. So that's why I got it. I got it because I've got quite a lot of woodworking type things to do, and I decided to get power. And the other nice thing, hey, it's got a little light, so wherever you are it lights it up. I like that. So that's what it was, that's what was in the box. And it's to help me do jobs. I really don't, the trouble is this drill, I can't see where, everywhere's got a place, except this. I don't know where that bit goes. Not even sure it should be in there, should it? Oh, well, it fits in there, that'll do. So anyway, that's what was in the box. A helping hand for work that I know I've got to do and work that might need doing in the future. So we get it charged up, ready to go, cordless. I can take it wherever the work is, outside, in the shed, whatever. And it comes in a very nice case. So that's what was in the box. A helping hand. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.